So I know Councilwoman Hamilton's not coming. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Missing.
Councilwoman McGee also emailed me. She won't be here tonight.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, so, and Councilwoman Johnston, she told me she wasn't going to be here either. All right, my apologies. It's 6:01 and the Finance Committee and Council as a whole is back in session. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stacy, can you take the roll call, please?
Sure. Councilman Gary Donovan.
Councilman Gary Donovan, Councilman at Large here.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor looks absent.
Councilwoman Colleen O'Connor, Council at Large here.
Oh, you're here. Okay, I didn't see you. Great. Councilwoman Bridget Hosky.
Councilwoman Bridget Hosky, 1st District, present.
Councilman William X. Conlon.
Councilman William X. Conlon, 2nd District, present.
Councilwoman Liz Johnston is absent. Councilman Mitch Galagnano.
Councilman Mitch Galagnano, 4th District, present.
Great. Councilwoman Robin Hamilton, absent. Councilman Peter Massaro.
Councilman Peter Massaro, 6th District, present.
Councilwoman Trenae McGee, absent. Councilwoman Crystal Finelli.
Councilwoman Crystal Finelli, 8th District, present.
Councilman Robert Bruno.
Councilman Robert Bruno, 9th District, present.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen.
Councilman Barry Lee Cohen, 10th District, present.
And Chairman Ron Quagliani.
Councilman Ron Quagliani, Council at Large.
Okay, I'm going to turn the floor over for a moment to Councilman Massaro. Councilman?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to take a moment to apologize what happened last night. I got very frustrated and disturbed, and I just show my feelings a lot different than Ronnie does. I just tell it like it is. He's more politically corrected. I'm not. So please bear with me. When I get really flipped out, I flip out. So I didn't mean anything by it, but I want to apologize to everybody. I'm awful sorry. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Massaro. We appreciate that. So we have before us this evening the library. Colleen is here. So welcome back, Colleen. Can you just provide us an update as far as what's occurred between now and our last time you were here last week, I think it was, or the week before? Ending of the week before.
Sure. Well, thank you again for talking to me. So what I can tell you from our last meeting is the board did meet and did decide that we are going to continue with our staff being on. We're doing a lot of different projects. So like I said, we're doing a lot of shifting projects. We're moving our entire adult collection around on our main library floor. We're also doing some deep cleaning. A lot of the part-time staff are going in and kind of doing that as well. We're still doing our story times, crafts and things, and doing a lot of digital library card signups along with virtual help. We've increased our online Ask a Librarian for help. That's now 9 to 5 on Monday through Friday. Updating our social media, updating our website. We're getting ready to relaunch the website very soon as well. We did also do a tour of the Blake building. I believe that was last Thursday as a possibility for the Allentown Library for a space. I think there is a lot of possibilities with it. I do believe Alan Olenek had also sent a letter to the council in regards to keeping our staff on, as well as about the what the initial thoughts were as for the Blake building. But I think we have to really sit down and look at the possibility of how much space we would truly need, what needs to be renovated, how all that would be paid for, who's paying for the renovation, who's paying for rent, when if there is going to be any kind of market rate rent for anything. And we're also still waiting on the library assessment. I contacted Lee this afternoon to see kind of where the status was. I did talk to him last week. He had received it. So I was still waiting to hear back from him so we can kind of get the ball rolling as far as that goes. I will also let the council know that too, that since the library is a 501c3, we were able to apply for a PPP loan to help with our staffing costs, which then would allow us to redistribute some of our funding towards things for next fiscal year. If there is, if we do have a budget cut, so we would be able to keep the same level of service for next year. Our loan is right now still pending with the SBA. I was really hoping to have heard something back by the time of this meeting, but unfortunately I have not heard back as far as that goes yet. So hopefully we will hear something in the next couple of days. But that's kind of where we are right now.
Does anyone from the council have any questions or comments? Councilwoman Finelli?
When that loan comes through, how much money, ballpark, how much that will be saving?
We asked for 230,000, which would cover all of the payroll costs, in addition to that can also go towards the health insurance costs, which is our largest cost after salary. So most of those loans, they have to be spent within 10 weeks once you do receive it. And that would go towards, like I said, all, our payroll expenses.
And how much, it's a loan then, right? It's not a grant, so you would have to pay that back. So
if you keep all of your staff currently on your payroll, that becomes a grant and you don't have to pay it back. That was the whole reason.
The small business one that they have out.
Yep.
Okay, that's it.
Are there any other questions for Colleen? Councilman Massaro?
Colleen, what I understand about that loan though, because I know my wife's boss applied for it and they ran out of money. Is it a guarantee or this time, or you don't know yet?
Unfortunately, we don't know yet. When I had talked to the bank, they said it looked like we had a pretty good shot of getting it, but we use Bank of America, so it's going through them. I received an email yesterday saying it was definitely with the SBA, but so at least we're already ahead of it as far as that goes. We had just missed it for the first go around. So I'm really I'm hoping that we will hear something, like I said, the next day or so.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
That's it.
Councilman Bruno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Hi, Colleen, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I just have a question for you, right? So you go before on any major decisions? Is that how it works? You got to go before your board?
That is correct, yes.
All right, and at this time, I know you went for that money, which we did the same, and I appreciate that. But at this time that the money wasn't funded, the board still didn't choose to.
That is correct. A large portion of our staff are West Haven residents, and we do have, it was thought about and was discussed, but in the end, we are trying to do a lot. We are doing a lot more than other libraries in the area as far as still providing services. So the decision was made to keep people on. Right now at the main library, we have, it kind of almost looks like a construction zone right now with the amount of things that are kind of going on between painting, moving materials around, we're moving tables and computers to kind of get ready for social distancing when we do reopen. So that was part of the decision on why we decided to keep everybody on payroll. There's a lot of different cogs in the wheel to kind of make sure that everything is functioning. We want to make sure that as soon as it's safe for us to do so, we want to be able to open to the public and be able to serve everybody that wants to come into the building.
Okay. And is everybody or the majority of them still working from home at this time?
Yeah, we have for the most part, all the librarians are doing a lot of their work from home, such as doing collection development and a lot of the programs and story times that you see posted. There are some of the assistants are going in about 2 to 3 days a week to do different, like I said, to do different projects as well. So it's a combination of the two.
Thank you, Colleen, for your time. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Chair, that's my 2 questions.
Is it Chairman? Oh, Barry, go ahead. Councilman Cohen, go ahead. Thank you. No, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleen, this is Barry Cohen. Just a question. If I recollect correctly, in your current location, the Allentown Library, the library portion takes up about 7,000 square feet. At least that was what was detailed in the earlier proposal, if you will. And when you took a look at the Blake building, do you have any idea how much space you looked at, or if it would are you looking for more space, like more than 7,000 square feet, or would you be able to go into a smaller space and maybe have a layout, a layout that would be more economical in terms of the size of footprint? I'm just trying to get an idea because you basically mentioned, incorrectly so, that at some point you, meaning the library, is going to have to consider, if you will, and so. Are you basing it on 7,000 square feet? Are you basing it that you're going to need a bigger footprint? Can you comment on that so we have an idea, or you don't have?
Yeah, I believe right now the space, I think we have it quoted at 6,500 for where the library currently is. I had asked Lou if we could possibly see the blueprints for the space too, because there was a lot of like little rooms in different areas. So we want to obviously be looking at opening it up because we want to make sure that for whatever kind of layout would maybe occur, we want to make sure that we wouldn't have to staff it anymore. So we want to make sure that the space would kind of be as open as we would need. Being as close to 2 schools as it would be, we would see I'm pretty confident that we would see a dramatic increase in the number of kids that would be coming in. We would like to kind of be cognizant of that. I think I need to ideally look at how the floor space is made up and look at how we could configure the space in such a way that if we have to be in a smaller space, that we could make it work, because I do think there's a lot of potential with that spot, but it's too soon to tell right now on how much space. I think ideally we would be looking for the full floor, just because we would want to, like I said, be able to have I would be wanting to look at what can we do to improve the space in the library in Allentown. If we have to move, then that's the time to kind of improve it as well.
Well, then I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, because we lack meeting space where we currently are. That's a common problem. We turn people away on a regular basis. So we would want to be able to make sure that we can be able to do more programs with people that kind of look into doing that sort of thing.
So it's fair to basically say that, looking at your crystal ball, that you would probably need at least the same amount of square footage based on what there. And the reason why I bring that up is everything that you just briefly mentioned in terms of being close to 2 schools and probably most possibly having more traffic, foot traffic in there. I also understood from the earlier proposal, I know that things change daily around here, but that, some type of coffee shop, the more popular, coffee cafe type of thing. And so you might also be getting more of an older crowd perhaps in there that you normally would not be getting. I think about the Barnes and Noble sometimes, people sit there all day, do that.
Yeah,
so,
I mean,
yeah.
When the senior center left the Allentown building, we did used to have a large senior population kind of going into that building. We still have, our core regulars that will still go into the library on a regular basis. But I would do it and participate if if we were to move into that space, that we would see some clientele change, which is fine. I mean, I think we'd possibly, like I said, I definitely dramatic increase in children for sure.
And I'll just close with this comment, because I think I had 1.5 questions there. Is you pointed out something that I pointed out at a prior meeting, that whatever happens, wherever you may go or not go, or whatever square footage that you have, there is an additional cost that you folks are going to have to find in your budget, and a substantial cost that you're going to have to find in your. When I said substantial, what you don't have now is that monthly rent or lease or whatever it may be. So we talked to you last time about the proposed 1.4 million, which of course we're going to be, further deliberating in the days to come. I basically said to you, continue to drill down. It may be a real deep drill, is what I'm saying. So it's a concern that has to be addressed at some point. In-
I
in-
mean, I
in the
will
budget
say
structure.
yeah, I mean, I will say we are very bare bones already. We are already not at the
We're
hours
getting
level.
a lot of back feed. I'm sorry, excuse me, Colleen.
Yep.
Can you mute yourself, Barry and Colleen, when you guys are going back and forth, just because there's a lot of back feed. Thank you. Go ahead, Colleen. Thank you.
Yeah, so what I was just saying, it's, we are very bare bones kind of already. We're already, like things like our book budget, the staffing levels that we have. I mean, we are doing the LED light changeover. That's occurring this week. So I am hoping to see a significant savings with that. And the board did decide not to do the loan through UI. They are taking that out of the endowment in order to pay for it. So we won't have the extra cost. We will see the cost savings from that immediately. So I think like I said, we are going to see some cost savings right away, but we may be looking at, I think a lot of stuff is up in the air right now because we still don't know when we're going to open. We don't know what the hours may be when we do finally reopen. We don't know if we'll be doing things like curbside right away first. So I'm trying to plan for next year as though we will be able to hopefully open as many hours as we have been in the past, but we may not be able to.
Thank you, and my apologies, Madam Chair. I had a brain freeze. I should have done that throughout the conversation. Thank you. Thank you, Colleen.
Chairman?
Thank you. Hi, Colleen.
Hello.
Can we just talk about the 230,000 a little bit? It has to be used within 10 weeks. When do you anticipate getting it?
Like I said, the loan is with the SBA right now. I'm hoping that we will hear something within the next few days to a week. And then it would have, like I said, I think it starts once you receive the loan. But we're still in the holding pattern right now.
So it would go over 2 budget years. It would finish 20 and then possibly into July of 21.
Yeah, I think what's the date today? Is the 29th? Ideally, if it's approved in the next, say, a few days, or like the 4th or 5th, if we get it by the 8th and we have to use it within 10 weeks, we're looking at it kind of filtering into like mid-July.
And if you don't get the loan, when is it, what's the status of your budget for May?
For this fiscal year, we're right on point. I don't foresee us having a large deficit at all. We're also starting to really look at anything we can pay right now ahead for next fiscal year. As well, you figure we also don't have any revenue coming in right now, so that kind of has been cut down. We do have some fundraisers that we kind of have in the pipeline for next fiscal year, but again, right now, all that's also in a holding pattern right now because we can't do any kind of large kind of gathering of any sort. And we are still bringing in funding still little by little with as far as the annual appeal as well.
So if you get the loan or the forgivable grant, is there an opportunity to redirect some monies to either equipment or supplies that you need, or potentially, for hours?
Yes, we would absolutely be looking at, like I said, I'd be looking at our largest big ticket item things that we would pay off for the full fiscal year going forward. I've also talked to some of our vendors that we do for materials that we would also be able to basically put some money on account for that stuff. So we would be set for kind of next year. I mean, my goal is to hopefully get it to the point so that if we are at that 1.421 million for next year and we get the loan, we will be able to either keep the hours the same or even possibly increase them slightly. But I need to, hopefully we have to get it first.
Yeah, and I'd ask if, when you get notice, if you could share that with us, that would be great.
Absolutely, I will.
All right. The only other comment I want to make is you're the librarian, so most of your time should be spent with trying to bring the programming to the community like you do so well, you and your team. So the overarching decision makers are the board. So typically, you're here in front of us, you were here in front of us a couple of weeks ago, you bear the brunt of this, and I know you're in the middle. But I think because we're in this virtual world, it's more difficult. Usually we'll see the board members at these budget hearings, but hopefully, again, once we get past all this, we could continue to have those cooperative meetings between the board and some members of the council to keep the conversation going.
No, I think that would be great. I mean, I know that the board and most of my staff watch all of these, as a matter of fact. So I do think it's important. Like I said, I do think too that once we can do that library assessment, we're going to have a much better idea of where things are, because I do think it's important to have that third party kind of come in to be able to really be able to show everybody what we can do to help move the library forward, which is ultimately what I want to see happen. I want to be able to help as many people as we possibly can. Don't mind my coworker here.
And we're on it. Thank you.
Any other questions? I have a couple of questions. When we spoke the last time you were with us, why no mention of the payroll loan? Or did the payroll idea come afterwards?
Honestly, it was an oversight. I should have had it in my notes and I didn't have it. I didn't think of it until after the fact, which I apologize for.
What was the reason for the delay in not getting in when there was the first round?
I actually put it in the first day we were able to. What happens is it was going back and forth between Bank of America and myself with information that they needed. So you have to do the initial application, and then there was a wait to find out if you kind of passed that first piece. Then they kind of send you the link to be able to get into to be able to upload the documents that you need, and that again took a few days. So there seemed to be a couple-day lag time between every single step, because I was doing everything that kind of the first day that you were able to, but I think you had so many other businesses applying to it the same way, and unfortunately I don't have anybody that's say at Bank of America that we can call to then ask about. There were a few times where I did have to kind of contact the bank as well to kind of help push things along too.
Do you, and maybe the mayor might know, I'm not really sure. So I know that we, for the city, put out a bid for our accounts to go through a certain bank, and I had mentioned it in years past about just seeing how much if there's any savings. Has there been any thought that you with us to maybe get a better rate, or to have somebody you could pick up the phone with and deal with? Or has the library always just been separate and did their own banking? Because you generally just kind of all do it together, you get a better package.
As far as I know, we've had an account with the same bank for years. I've been director now almost 5 years. I'm not quite sure. I can't speak to who was there kind of prior. So I don't know if that's kind of ever been discussed before.
Maybe, you know what I'm referencing? I know it was something that I think Lee mentioned, that how we went out and got put out whatever it is to the banks to see what return on investment, what the accounts would cost us. And I think it happened this year, or it's going to be happening, that we're switching banks possibly.
He did put out an RFP for bank fees, and I don't know where it's at right now, if it's come back, because a lot of times RFPs go out for 20 days or 21 days. I can check with him in the morning and find out, and we'll get you some information.
Like, is there some way of possibly helping the library with their costs? I mean, I don't know, but maybe. Could I ask you? Go ahead.
I would believe yes, that, because we do try to include the library in any initiative that we can. For instance, we're doing this initiative called performance contracts, and where, any way that we can, assist them and work, because it works great. The more people together, or the more businesses together, if you will, usually the better that you get. But as I said, once I get some more information from Lee, I can let you know that.
I have one more question. What about payroll? How do you do your payroll? Does it come through the city? I don't know if I know the answer to that.
No, I do our payroll. So we have a time management software that we use that our assistant director approves, and then I do payroll through ADP, and we do the processing through there. So, and our 401k currently is, I believe, under the umbrella of the city, but then again, I log in and do that for our staff.
So we never looked at whether or not it being whole, because I know that the city's doing ADP, possibly, however that's going to happen with the Board of Ed. So to bring you in, would that be any cost savings?
I would have to look to see how. I'm not sure what our costs are right now offhand. It's not extensive, but I mean, anywhere we can save money is a good thing.
Right. That I think that's something that we should look at, because even if it's $15,000, and honestly too, instead of everything is not always a dollar amount, but imagine how many hours a week you spend doing that. And I know Councilwoman O'Connor is very similar to me, that you don't ever have to do anything. As soon as somebody walks in the building, they can do it right from their phones. I mean, there's just so much that can happen that possibly, I guess we never thought about it, but it popped into my brain just now that if there could be one contract for the city, the Board of Ed, and the library, us all grouping together, possibly be a greater savings and more efficiency for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I could always, like I said, I don't remember what our fees are offhand, but I can look into that and send that too. I guess, would that be Frank? What the information is, what we currently pay for that.
Yeah. Councilwoman Hamilton, do you have any questions? I see that you just logged in. Welcome. We're happy you're here. You're muted.
I don't know. Hi, everybody. I don't know what was discussed. I don't know if I have any questions or not.
Well, Colleen did share with us that they did a payroll loan. They're waiting to hear back. It's $230,000. It is a forgivable loan. So they would, once they receive it, have to use that within 10 weeks. Once that happens, fingers crossed, say a silent prayer, that it would help them possibly fund more hours and be able to do things if we just left their budget at the 1.4 million. I was talking to her about bank services coming in with the city to where we do banking, and even the ADP and payroll. Councilman Cohen spoke about the Blake building and stuff like that. Did I miss anything?
So Colleen, speaking of the Blake building, and I know that I'm sorry that I'm making you repeat this. What are your thoughts? What are the other members' thoughts on that space?
Like I was saying, I think there's some definite possibilities with the building. I'd really want to be able to look at the blueprints and such to see if the kind of space we would want to do would be feasible. My initial thoughts are that yes, it would, but there's a lot of questions, such as who would pay for any kind of change or expansion, what kind of rent we'd be looking at, who's paying the utilities, that sort of thing. But as far as the space and the location, I think it has a lot of really great potential, especially being so close to two schools. I strongly believe we would see a dramatic increase in kids using the facility, and I think that's a great thing. I think being in a neighborhood, it's also probably a good thing, but we are also looking at like I said, what the cost would be for the renovation. I think that's a really big question, and also seeing if the amount that we want to have opened up, if it would be possible. I mean, I know that where the library currently is a former school. We were able to do it with that building. So I mean, I'm fairly confident we'd probably be able to do what we would need to, but it's looking at, you know, the electrical, how many bathrooms you would need to have, that sort of stuff. So it's.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I think it almost created more questions, but they're good questions.
Yeah. So we know it's an old building. I mean, my oldest brother went there. My older brother and sister went there, and it's not going to look anything like it looks inside. I think UNH might have done some updates to it, but I don't know how much. So I'm sure that the developer is going to bring it up to par. You know, I'm absolutely sure. And I wouldn't think that you would have to do any renovations, that the library would have to do any reservations. Am I wrong on that? I would think that it's going to be a whole brand new space with the library in mind. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So you mentioned something that's a little concerning. You said that, you know, you're thinking about who would pay the rent and the utilities, and I'm not quite sure why that's a question when you thought about paying a mortgage. Right? So I'm not quite sure why it's a question about who would pay the rent.
That's one of the questions that I believe one of my board members sent to everybody, and I was looking at the questions that kind of come up. I mean, I think we have to first talk about, you know, just seeing where things are going to go from there, but because we can't have any more increase, you know, in cost. So we do have to kind of be thinking about that. I don't know, the board may decide that, you know, rent can be considered part of capital, but I can't speak on behalf of the board. That would be a board level decision.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Hosky.
Does anyone else have any questions? I do have a few. Oh, go ahead, Councilwoman Hamilton. I'm sorry.
One thing I did talk about, I had a conversation with somebody from the city. The thing that did concern me a little bit is, you know, the location is a good one. It's not far from the bus stop. And my ask would be that there be a sidewalk, you know, where Family General, I mean, where Dollar General stops, there is a sidewalk, but then there's a whole block without a sidewalk. And my ask would be that there be a sidewalk just to make it safe to walk up there on the side that the Blake building is on. When we get to that. I didn't hear you.
I would also say too, I would love to possibly see the addition of a bus stop. So the bus stop would be right in front of the library, like we currently have.
Whoa. I already have a problem in my neighborhood about a bus coming through. So I don't know. That's going through a neighborhood. So I don't know. We'll talk about it. Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Massaro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleen, you mentioned about a letter from Alan Olenek. I never received that, and I checked my emails. I haven't received it at all. So I didn't get it. And I don't know if any other council people did, but I didn't.
Okay, I can see about forwarding that to make sure that everybody on the council does receive that.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? I do have a few. Just as a follow-up to Councilwoman Hamilton, I think, you know, and I know that you know, like Chairman Quagliani said, you are kind of the middle person between us and your board. But I think that it is a little difficult for us to hear that there would be any concerns about a rent and utilities. Like Councilwoman Hamilton said, that you guys were looking for a mortgage. So the rent, my understanding is would pretty much be comparable to that. So it would be hard for me to hear that type of concern at this stage of the game, right after the idea was that those same individuals wanted to buy that building. So my thought would be how you were going to pay for that mortgage is how we, would pay for that rent. I would think that that is fair. I think that, and I know, it would just be my interest that you communicate with them that, that's fair to me. It seems reasonable. It is a reasonable assumption on behalf of myself and how I would see us moving forward with you guys going to the Blake building would be that you would pay the rent as you would have paid that mortgage. But I do have another question or suggestions because I just always have suggestions. But and another thing is, one of the things, and just to back up what Councilwoman Hamilton said, I would imagine with that when they're renovating the building, they would be taking into account their renters and providing that space as you see fit. You tend to do that when, people tend to do that, they rent, build to suit and things like that. When you see it around town that if they have in a warehouse and they're going to rent it to somebody, that they will do things to, as the person wants. And that if there is any type of renovation that is required or something that the board deems necessary, I would once again say, would do it and use the funds you were going to use had you purchased the building at One Forest. You were expected to renovate that and make changes. Sorry, excuse me. You were expecting to renovate that and put money into that building. I would ask, my ask would be that it would be the exact same thing, that this was just 2 weeks ago, was there with renovations, as part of that. So my thought is that if the landlord can't do all that you want to have done, that you would use that same monies. We have it in the paperwork that's what you guys were going to do. So that's just what I wanted to say in regards to Councilwoman Hamilton and following up. I want to ask about the endowment. I know you have no control over it, but there was a suggestion that Lee had mentioned, and I think I had mentioned it one time, is that if you were to, let me see, give me 1 second. Where is what he was saying? Okay. That you could join the fire department and the police department in regards to investment. And that if you'd done that, because I had talked about it, I think, in another meeting with the fire departments, about all of them grouping together because you get a better return. It's more efficient. It costs less. So that you could join the police and Allentown Fire Department in an RFP and select one investment agent. And I will say that I love some of the things you have told us tonight, Colleen. I think it has been like the LED lights. I know you remember, this is our third time together. I have talked about energy efficiency every year. Let's save on your utility costs. I've spoken about fundraising, and to be honest, I have been disappointed in that ability to get or work on these ideas. But I also know that you are just one person. You have many hats to which you wear. Your job should really be the director of the library, but you do so much. You should have other people doing these things. So I know you can't do it all, but I think that is very important. I would think that your board should move on that they should move on the idea of trying to figure out how they can get in with the police department and the Allentown Fire Department. It will help save you money, and the return on investment will be hand over fist. A lot better than what you're getting now, because when we're looking at it, your endowment isn't making the money or the return that the others are. And I know that's not within your control, but when the board is saying, we need more money, and we're saying, and we're hearing what Councilman Cohen is saying is, I think some of what he says, you got to do more with less. We got to figure out, we got to drill real deep. And if you've been on these calls and you've heard him, he wants to get into like down to Middle Earth. And I appreciate that about him. So that is something that I suggest that I don't want to come back here next year and find out that we've done nothing with that, because it is just unacceptable. And I know you don't control it all, but it's still unacceptable if we don't find out. The other thing I wanted to ask about, bear with me, I have notes because grant writing. You have a grant writer, or you do that as well?
I do all the grants as well.
Okay. So I think maybe we need to try to figure out, it was something that was suggested as well, that is there some way to help the library with grant writing? Can we, share some resources with City Hall? I mean, we would absolutely need to speak with the mayor, but there seems to be that she has somebody that's been doing some great work. Maybe, and like I said, you have many hats that, we need to get you some help and get you more grants.
What I will say is we did work in the past with Eileen when she was there before she retired on a few. There were a number of times where I did pass them to her and she was willing to look them over for me. The state library has been really helpful. We're now joining the Urban Library Initiative. So we're going to have the possibility of getting some small funding from them as well. I put something into them, I think that was last week, and hopefully I'll hear back from them very soon too. So there's a little bit of funding every year, and I'm hoping, nothing's been said yet, so I'm kind of trying to be very hesitant about it, but there is a possibility that the state in some level is going to help pick up some of our networking costs and things too for at least the next 18 months, because they do know that libraries across the state are going to be facing some pretty bad cuts. In a perfect world, if I had to, I would love to be able to bring on a grants or development coordinator, even part-time. That's one of those things that as there's attrition, we kind of look at every position in the library to possibly look at changing things, because things do change over time, and needs and what you need people for does change, and you figure every few years. So that's something that
maybe have $230 in payroll, hire somebody for 10 weeks. Can we do that?
it could happen.
You have $230,000 to use in 10 weeks. Let's hire somebody temporary. I mean, I don't know if you can do that, but why not look into it? See, Colleen, I always think of something. I'm very.
I mean, that's why we applied for the loan, because I said it's the possibility of what we can do is that, and then helps us for next year as well. To
write that down. A temporary grant writer for 10 weeks. We got to move on it. No, and I know it's funny, but you have no idea how serious I am. I mean, I'm all about, you have to think outside of the box. You have to think of different ways to try to do it. And if that's a possibility, then I say, maybe that's something you look to do. How can you figure out if you get that, can you do that? And I would definitely, you know, speak to the mayor and see, is there anything that the current grant writer can do to assist you? You know, like you said, she's retired, she's not there anymore. She has somebody that presents fabulously, and maybe they'll be able to help. So I don't want to speak for her. I don't know, Mayor, if you have a comment. You kind of came up to the table, so I thought maybe.
Yes, I do. In other words, we do have a great grant writer. He is absolutely awesome, wonderful, and doing a great job. However, we need to get out of our financial condition as well. So if a once in a while thing like what Colleen was talking about, okay, she's got a grant to look it over or whatever. He did the same thing for the 2 independent fire departments, and I have no problem with helping somebody out, but he's got a job to do to coordinate LoCIP money, the FEMA money now for all of this, and then to do grant writing as well. So again, a once in a while deal, I have no problem, but you know, I like your idea with the 10.
Yeah, of course.
Good. The 10-week grant writer. I thought that, you know, I can find out too. CCM, I know, helps us because we're a municipality. They do have a grant, you know, thing there as well. So I can find out. I don't know though if the library would be able to tag on to something like that, but I'm willing to write to CCM and find out.
That would be great. I know another library had posted in one of our listservs today about CCM being able to help with some things. So if there's a possibility of us kind of being able to piggyback on some things, that would be good. I did talk to somebody at City Hall, I don't remember who it was, too, about possibly for getting FEMA reimbursement for some of the stuff that we're going to have to do once we reopen. So because we are a separate 501c3, we probably have to file for that stuff separately, but he was able to kind of help give me the right direction of where to go with some of that.
The main thing you have to do is keep details, plenty of paperwork, and start, because it won't happen for a while and you won't get your money for a while. But if you have all the proper paperwork and have everything logged and everything else, and that's one of the things our grant writer is doing for us. And it is very important because, again, you will get reimbursed 75% on all eligible costs. So it is important.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, we have paper trail for everything, so that's not a problem.
Perfect. I just have one more question, unless somebody else does. Okay. So when you said that you don't have all of the revenue coming in that you normally would, what revenue are you missing out on? And do you have a monetary, like, is there a, say, you know, we would have made $5,000 between the start of the pandemic and now, you know, what is that? Or are you just saying, you know, somebody would have made a donation if they walked in on Monday or something? I don't know.
So because we're closed, we normally bring in the most money on faxing, actually. So you figure we're not open, so we can't do the faxing right now. After that, it's computer printouts. So we're not open for that. I mean, we're saving money in other places like suspending newspapers and things like that. You figure, again, the lights aren't on as frequently. So there's other places where it's kind of being offset, but we do normally bring in anywhere between 2,000 and 6,000, depending. If people rent our meeting room space, we're not bringing any of that funding in right now either. So it's minimal, but all that goes back towards our general operating every single year. That kind of goes back to what we assume. I always have a line item what we kind of hope to reach with that. We're also not accruing fines right now because again, nobody can come in. So libraries across the state kind of have all suspended it. I mean, fines are the smallest amount, but it is the copying and the faxing, the printouts and all that kind of stuff that kind of comes in. We are still getting donations still on a regular basis, which is great to see. But it's that line item is less than it normally is.
Okay, I was just curious, like if it was like something we were missing out on. Any other questions? Thoughts, feedback? Councilman Massaro?
Colleen, on your investment account, I don't know who you have it with, what's your endowment. You know what the fees are?
Offhand, I don't know what the fees are. We are with Morgan Stanley. I could check with our treasurer to find out for sure, but offhand, I don't remember.
All right, would you try to get them to me so I could check them out?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I just,
Councilwoman O'Connor, one moment here.
Okay, mine's really quick. I just wanted to thank Colleen for coming for the third time before us. I think she did a really good job this time. And I'm going to give you a call tomorrow because my library card expires on Friday.
Absolutely, I can renew it for you.
Mayor?
yes, I just wanted to let you know, I texted Lee Tiernan about the ADP. He will check on it to find out if there's, savings or if there's anything, that we can do to combine it. So, because he wanted to know, was the library interested? I said, well, yeah, Colleen is interested. So we'll find out and we'll let you know. All right, Colleen?
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can you ask him as well as far as the fire department, the police, Allentown Fire Department, the pension for the police department, and the endowment, possibly those three too? I know Colleen has to speak to her board, but that also was something that we had spoke to Lee about as well. So
I thought though Allentown was coming on. Are they not? Or I thought it was the whole city. So
no, not the ADP, the
Okay.
for the investment. Am I confusing you?
yeah, we have investments and then we have a bank fee. We haven't put any RFP out yet for the investments. There's two different brokers that we have on the city side, one for Allentown and a different one for the West Haven PD. Eventually, my understanding is from Lee that will be going out to bid, but right now there's two different ones. What he did put out to bid was the bank fee thing. That's a different thing than the investment advisors.
Right, that's what I mean, is that when he does that, if we can try to work with the library to bring them in with us, so that will help them save. I know she has to get the board's approval, but I can't imagine they wouldn't want to do that. I could be wrong, but I'd like to imagine they wouldn't. But thank you so much. And the bank stuff too, I think would be a great idea, another way to just look to see where we could try to save some money. If Councilman Hamilton?
Colleen, I just want to say thank you. It sounds like you wear a lot of hats. And I just want to say thank you for all that you do provide for the community. I have two close friends that really do depend on the library, one in Allentown and one in the center. So I just want to say thank you.
Of course. I thoroughly enjoy being a librarian. I wear a lot of hats. Tomorrow I'll be moving computers, but it is what it is. Makes the days interesting, if nothing else.
Great, thanks.
All set, Councilman Cohen? Did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted what I didn't say earlier that I meant to say too is, Colleen, when you came in here the last time, I also, like with all the budgets that came through us, they were all done pre-pandemic. And when I read the budget, being a new council person for the very first time, and I saw that you wanted more money, I also saw the energy and passion that you specifically had for our kids, for our adult population, and the things that you want to do. At the same time, I know that I've been the quote unquote drill sergeant, if you will, to drill down, drill deep, and it's necessary, but we're telling all the departments that we have to really look at the essentials. And I think from the other council people here tonight, I think it's pretty clear that it's going to be quite a long shot. Nothing's ever impossible, but it's going to be quite a long shot that if the library comes back to the council asking for rent money, I think the message here is we're going to give you a budget. It's a challenging budget, but it's a budget that we must follow. And that budget is, we know you're going to do your very best to make ends meet. At the same time, it's no different than what we're asking any other department to do. But I thank you for everything you gave. I must say, now that we're nearing the end of our deliberations, and I've sat through, as my first time council person, your presentation last week, although it was, I'll call it controversial and a little frustrating at times for some people, You gave a very professional, well-thought presentation. You were the only one that came in with a slide presentation that we followed. It was a class act, and you're a class act. Thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of work goes into all that.
I know it.
So I just want to thank you for coming tonight. I wish you and your staff all the best. Stay healthy, wash your hands, wear your mask, and thank you so much. Stay safe, Colleen. We appreciate you and all that you do.
Thank you.
I will be adjourning our meeting now.
Yes. Recess.
I was about to correct myself. I will be recessing. I was going to say it again because you messed me up. Recessing our meeting this evening now at 6:56. I will see everybody Tuesday at 6 p.m.
Good night, everyone.
Recess.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Enjoy your recess.